people always say it's fake. Let me go on record. It is not fake. It's a predetermined outcome. But when you get thrown out of the ring on a concrete floor or you get a folded metal chair across your back, it's not fake. It's real.
You really getting hit on the back with a metal chair?
Yes. Now, they're not hitting you full force. If Undertaker picked up a folded metal chair and hit you across the back, it'd break your back.
Break your back.
But it still hurts. Like, if he's hitting you 50%, it still hurts.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mid-America Dirt. I'm Skip, and I am super excited to be joined by Chris Ellis. Chris, currently, I guess, reside in Southside. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's where I live and have been the past 5 years.
Okay. All right. And for people who don't know, you are the you're the founder of the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series.
Yes, sir. I'm proud to say that I did that. It was actually called Mid-South Racing Association when it began in 2007. The second year it was O'Reilly's MSRA. The third year it was Comp Cam's MSRA. And then starting in year 4 till current is Comp Cam's Super Dirt Series.
That's awesome. And that for people, I mean, people who watch my show know that's my favorite series. Just because it's our people racing in that, you know what I mean? I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of a lot of the drivers in it. So tell me, Chris, how did you come about? What's your racing story? How did you get involved in racing?
Well, going way back, my dad raced before I was born. And then when I was very small, I grew up in Jonesboro, Arkansas. We went to the Jonesboro Speed Bowl on Friday nights. And we sat right behind the flag stand. And a guy named Vance Cook drove WD-45. It was actually my neighbor. His twin daughters went to school with me. His father sat in the flag stand next to the flagman. His mom sat in the row in front of us. And that's where I got my start. In fact, I got 3 books over here to my left in my office that are programs from back then, 70, 71, and 72. It's got all these old racers in it that I first loved when I was young. Cool. But anyway, I always wanted to be the flagman. That's what I always wanted to do because I'm not mechanical and I don't have the patience to do it. So fast forward, I went to the races all my life. In the late 80s, I was with a friend of mine named Thomas Brown who drove, back then we called them super hobbies. They're limited late models or whatever was the next phrase they called them. Anyway, we're at Pocahontas. I was helping change the gears in the rear end. The flagman apparently quit at intermission, and Gib Burgess was his last year on the track. Asked, anybody know who could flag? And Thomas's dad, Tommy Brown, said, that kid right there can. And I went to the flag stand, and I stayed on the flag stand ever since. So that's how I got into, that was my introduction into the sport, so to speak.
Okay. Now you talked about a racetrack there that I've never heard of. You said it was the Jonesboro, what was it?
The Jonesboro Speed Bowl. If it is, you go out what's called Nettleton Extended coming west down Nettleton Avenue past the YMCA and go up, instead of making the hard curve to the right, go up the hill, and there's a bunch of houses there to the left. And the old pit gate is still there. And it's been closed since 1973. And it was actually, and I can tell this story because there's probably not anybody around to dispute it now, but it was actually lost in a card game.
No joke.
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh.
A friend of my dad's owned it, and he actually lost it in a card game to a real estate developer, and they closed it and built houses.
Oh man. What kind of track was it?
It was a small 1/4 mile, old school dirt track. Like wasn't anything would pass for safety, anything like nowadays,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably, it's probably a death trap, truth be told. But back then we didn't know better. I mean, they put it in the infield. There were no walls other than on the front stretch. I mean, it was just, but it was what we knew and it's what made us, what made us love it,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I didn't mean to interrupt your story there, but I wanted to ask you about that because I had never heard about that track. And we've talked before on X about tracks, that have closed down, and one in particular, down there on the way to Heber Springs. And I think Mark Martin talked about that one also and said he was going to have a story about that in his book. There's a big half mile down there that was open for like a year. I think he said 1976. And you said that's perhaps pretty close to your farm or something down there. Is that right?
Yes, it is. So my wife and I have a farm in the Ida community. Actually, it's my father-in-law, and we have a place on that farm, but it's in Ida, just back this direction toward Batesville from Heber Springs. But it's Wynn Stadium, and the road is still called Wynn Stadium Road. So coming from Batesville, going that direction, you turn on Wynn Stadium Road, or you take the next road, you turn on Center Ridge, and you're going to my house, my
Yeah.
house that's at the farm. So I mean, as the crow flies, I'm a quarter mile from where that racetrack was originally.
Did you ever see a race there that year it
I
was
did.
open?
I did.
Did you
I
really?
actually got to go to a race there. In fact, my friend Michael Gibson's father, Larry Gibson, actually raced on that track back then. We just lost Larry in the last year or two, but he actually raced on that track. We went one time to that racetrack when I was a kid. Well, I was probably 10 years old because it wasn't open very long, because right down the road from it, about 8 miles on Highway 25, was Cleveland County Speedway right there on the highway. So I don't really
Okay. I
know
didn't
the
know about that one
story.
either.
Yeah, there's a you can drive by there and see that it was an old racetrack, and then they made it into a motocross track there on right on the highway.
Now I know where that motocross place is, so that's where that speedway was. Okay,
Yes,
I did not
yeah,
know that. And I can see that other one. You can still see that from Google Earth.
oh, yeah.
I think you sent me the picture. Did you? I think you sent me a picture of that.
I may have, yeah,
I think you did, or somebody did, but sent me a picture of that. You can still see where that thing was. But yeah, that always interests me to hear, about tracks that I didn't know about. And I'm going to ask you this. I may edit this out later, but there is you may know about this, and I've asked a ton of people about this, and they don't know. There is an old dirt track somewhere. I can't tell you exactly where it's at, in between Ravenden and Imboden, that you can see on the right hand side of the road. Do you know what I'm talking about?
well, if you're going toward
Toward
Jonesboro,
Imboden.
it's on the right. If you're
Yes,
coming
sir.
toward Ravenden, it's on the left.
Do you know what
Yes,
I'm talking about? And that
I've
somebody's
been
house
I've
is
been there
right
to the
there.
races. I've been to the races there. You go uphill into turn one and come down the hill in turn two. Yes,
Yes.
sir. Yes.
So I have not found anybody, Chris, yet that even knew that there was a racetrack there.
Yes, sir. I've been there. My mom's family's actually from that part of the country. My great uncle owned a little gas station right up the road from that racetrack, and all her family's from right in that area. So I've been there. I mean, a handful of times. It wasn't open long. It wasn't very big.
No,
One
it
thing
looked really
stands out in
small.
my mind is Ricky Barkley always drove number 600 in his race car that year, and I don't know why I can remember this, but it was number 66 when he raced on that at Ravenden.
Be daggum. So that is really cool. Was it just Ravenden Speedway or something, or do you know?
To tell you the truth, I can't recall. I remember being there. I remember seeing races there, but as far as remember the name of it, I'm not sure.
Well, that is an awesome piece of information that I just got from you. I'm glad I asked you, because I've asked a lot of people, and I not running anybody that even knew there was a racetrack there. But when we drove through there, when I was a kid on the way to Jonesboro, whatever, and it seems to me like ever since I can remember, it was always had grass on it. I've never seen dirt. So every time I looked at it, but I could see the banking there. You could see that there is a track there, or was there one there at one time, and it looked really small and really steep banked.
It was really small. It was really steep banked in one and two, just naturally. And like seriously, like you went uphill a little bit going into one, and you came downhill coming off of two. But I mean, there weren't any racetracks back then. People weren't building racetracks, so people were going to go race where they could find a racetrack. And it was small. I think it may even be smaller than the Ridge.
Yeah, I mean I'm not sure it's as big as the Dome. To be honest with you, from what I remember, it doesn't look very big at all. But
Yeah, I mean, going back to how young I was then and all the tracks I've seen, it's
yeah,
hard for me to recall like
yeah,
how big was it, like to compare it. But I'd say slightly smaller than the Ridge if memory serves me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving me that bit of information, Chris. That's I've been wondering about that for a long time, so I'm glad I asked you about that. So let's go back to your story. So you started flagging. What? How did it progress from there?
So I flagged at Pocahontas. Gibbs sold the racetrack to a gentleman. I can't recall his name. I flagged the entire season for him the next year. Then Troy Gibson, which I mentioned Michael earlier. Michael was a big street stock racer at Batesville, really good driver. His cousin Troy bought the racetrack, and to be honest, to tell you how volatile flagging is, had a wreck coming off turn two, and the first and second place car got in a wreck. So I was going to put them both tailback after the caution because they were both involved and stopped on the racetrack. They go the back. He told me on the headset that if I put them back in the front, I should put them back in the front because neither one of them were at fault. It was just a racing deal. And I said, well, that doesn't work because all the guys behind them weren't in the racing deal. And he said, well, I'm going to put them back on the front. And I said, well, if you do, you'll be flagging. And he did. And I threw the green and threw my headset up to the tower and walked to the truck. And the cars were running around the racetrack. So that was my last night at Pocahontas.
So
And then,
that kind of stuff really happens.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
a
especially
track,
back then.
if the track's got a favorite driver or something or things like that, or if they favor somebody, they'll do stuff like that.
Well, back then he was trying to build it up, so he didn't want to make people mad. But a lot of people don't understand when you're officiating, if you'll just do the right thing, you're going to make less people mad over the long haul. If you're fair and consistent, that's going to gain you more business than being favoritism or trying to, play it down or whatever you want to call it. So then I mentioned Tommy Brown earlier. He built the track at Harrisburg for Adam Lyerly and his family. Like Tommy actually did the work and built it. And the first year it was open, I flagged the first race ever at Harrisburg. I was there for a couple of seasons, and then I went to work for Mooney in 90, I think 94. I can't recall, honestly. I had to go back and look at pictures, but like 94 to 97. And I drove back and forth from DeQueen in 96 and 97 to flag on Friday nights because, there was nowhere for me to work down there yet. And then in 98, Charlie Smith on the track at Nashville. I've heard y'all talk about Orchard Park on here. Well, now it's called Diamond Park, but it was called Southwest Arkansas Speedway then. I was the flagman there for 4 years,
Well, I'll be
and
dead
then
gone.
I moved to BB, and I was there 1 year before Terry Butler took the racetrack. Funny story, I became the basketball wherever I was coaching, I worked at the racetrack. And so
Okay.
I moved to
So
BB to coach.
that's what you were doing. You were coaching.
At that time, yes, sir. Yeah, I
Okay.
was a football and basketball coach. And
Okay.
so I'm coaching at BB. I'd never met Terry Butler, but I knew who Walt Butler was, one of the most talented guys you've ever seen in a race car. He's naturally gifted. But it was his father. He came by the gym. He said, "Hey, I'm looking for the guy that runs racetrack." I said, "Well, sir, I've only lived here about 3 or 4 months. I don't know anybody that does that here. I've been to the races out here, but I don't know the people." And he left. He came back an hour later and walked in and he goes, "Are you a flagman?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I have been for many years." He goes, "Well, why didn't you tell me that earlier?" And I said, "You didn't ask me that. You asked me if I was the guy that ran the races here in BB, and I don't." And he said, "Well, you do now. You're coming to work for me." So we became great friends. We owned the track at BB or ran the track at BB for 3 years. We gave it up for a year. And then I got the idea to start this racing series because I'd gone back to work for Mooney at Batesville in '05. And there's a good story behind how that started, the racing series. But I went to work for Moon in '05. When I started the series, I needed a place to like control the nights I needed to fill in. I could use my own track. So we took Harrisburg for 3 years as I built the racing series up, and then we let it go, and I kept the series until I just got to where it had to grow more than I was able to give it as a one-man operation.
Yeah, I could imagine that'd get pretty hectic, especially coaching and all that kind of stuff. That seems like that would be tough to
Well,
manage.
I moved into administration in '07 and became a principal, so it got to be a little easier. But I mean, people probably think I'm exaggerating, but from '07 through the year I sold it to Chris and Jack in 19, I worked 100 hours a week during the season, during the racing season, because I had to run the shows all weekend, take care of my sponsors, take care of my promoters, take care of the racers. It, I mean, it's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of time and effort. People have no idea all it takes. And these guys that run these national deals, I know they got the funding, but to do the people part and the logistics part is a big, big deal.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. That's crazy. So how did the series come about?
Well, it's to me, it's a great story. So every night after the races at Batesville Speedway, we have what we call the board meeting upstairs in the big suite up above where the announcer's tower is. And we go up there, and it's been that way for years. Mooney Star, obviously, is the owner. Rick Seiler, the late Wilp Reed, myself, and Chuck Cummins worked for Moon for years. We all worked on that racing crew forever, and we had the board meeting every week. Well, we'd always get the race report from around the area because, like Mooney's stepsons, Jeff and Peyton Taylor, big modified racers. Lance Lander's son, Jared's a big modified racer.
That I did not know that connection right there. I did not
Oh,
know
you
that.
didn't know that?
I did not know that connection. I didn't.
Yeah.
I know who they
Yeah.
are. I didn't know there was a connection like that there. Okay.
Yeah, they're Connie's sons. Yes.
Okay.
So we'd go upstairs and get usually the modified race report from wherever the big modified race was. And then, like Jeff Floyd, whom I met when I coached at Walnut Ridge from 1995, we were really good friends, and he'd call me from wherever they raced, give me the race report. Well, they'd been to Lake of the Ozarks Speedway 3 times that year racing with Mars and got rained out 3 times, and they're driving all the way up there. Steve Rushing was at Poplar Bluff, and I can't like Jeff Taylor from Batesville raced late models to some then. He said, Ellis, we got to do something to start a racing series. So I got off the phone, and Chuck said, who won? And I said, well, it rained out again. And I said, Floyd says I need to start a racing series. And let me say, Mooney Stars helped me a ton in my career. He's gave me races. He's helped introduce me to sponsors. So I give him a lot of credit, but he likes to challenge us too. So he challenged me and Chuck. He said, oh, you guys can't start a racing series. That ain't going to happen. Y'all don't have what it takes. So I had to show him that we had what it took. And we did. We did it. I mean, I had a barn door trailer, an old beat up barn door trailer, and my used green Tahoe was our series vehicle and trailer. It had
The
me on. I was the race director on the flag stand. Chucky he was the pit steward and worked turn 4, and I had an announcer. That's it. There was 3 of us, and
wow.
and luckily I'd worked at enough racetracks that we put all that together. And Mooney helped me meet a couple of other promoters, like my great friend Phil Sandy at Malden, Missouri. Got him on board. I had my own track then at Harrisburg, and here we went. And God blessed us. I'm just telling you, before we go, I'll list all the people who played a role in this because it's been many. But we were fortunate to get great help from a lot of people, and it just kept growing and growing. And frankly, it grew to the point where somebody had to do it full time that could do it and give it what it deserved because it had to pay more money. The points fund had to go up. We had to travel farther because we're losing racetracks. And anyway, that's how it all began. And it began as the Mid South Racing Association, MSRA.
That is awesome. So how was it? How many drivers did you have starting out the first season? I mean, did you have dedicated drivers, or
I
was
had
it more of a you put on races, or did you have like dedicated drivers?
Well, I had eight guys that ran all the point shows, and that's about all you'll have anytime. 8 to 10 guys. You have 8 to 10, maybe 12 max, and then you got to rely on other people in the area where you travel, and you got to build relationships and call people every week. Like Dane Dacus from Memphis used to tell me that he only raced with me 4 or 5 times a year, but I call him 20 times a year. Hey man, we're racing at so and so. Love for you to come. Blah blah blah. You have to do that. I mean, it takes 100. Well, back in my time, I don't know what it takes now, but when I was still doing it, you can make 100 phone calls to get 30 to 35 cars. My goal was to have 32 cars. You had 4 heats of 8, 2 Bs of 8, and an A, and that
Yeah,
that was
that
perfect.
sounds good.
That was a perfect
Yeah,
night of racing. And when you have 32 cars, that means that only 10 guys didn't make the show. If you have 45 cars, over half the field didn't make the show. And the people go home with their feelings hurt and they start trying to find somewhere else to race because they can't make the race.
yeah. Do you remember who those first 8 were?
I almost can tell you. I'll see if I can. Boy Mack from Benton, Missouri was the champion the first 2 years. And Fireball Jeff Floyd was the runner up the first 2 years. Kyle Beard, who has ran for points in comp every year of its existence for
Yes, sir.
19 years. He's the only
Great
one to
racer
do
too.
that. So he was there as 3. My great friend Billy Peden owns Marion Towing in Marion, Arkansas. Him and his teammate Carl Thomas. That's 5. Jordan Jones is 6. You might have heard of a guy named Billy Moyer Jr. He was one
I
of them.
have.
That's 7. And the 8th one escapes me, and I apologize to that person right
Well,
now because I can't
I
remember who
put
it
you on the
is.
spot on. I put you
Yeah,
on the spot on that one. There's
yeah,
no way I would have been able to remember any of them. But that's pretty cool. Kyle Beard, I mean, he's still doing it. He's still out there
yes,
getting after it. Kyle Beard's a good racer. I love watching him race.
yeah. I think he's won the series twice, and he's been in the top 3 in points many times. But he and Gary, his dad, very loyal supporters of me as a person. The racetrack when I had the Harrisburg, Gary actually had it at one point before us, and
Oh,
Kyle
I did
grew
not
up
know that.
racing there. Yeah, Kyle, a great story. Uh, One night we called it the Mid South Dirt Track Championship because, frankly, I hated the name Cow Patty. I hate that name. I mean, all the people from Harrisburg will be mad at me for saying that, but that just didn't feel like a very professional race to me. So I changed it from Cow Patty to Mid South Dirt Track Championship. Well, Kyle started 22nd in that race one night, 50 laps and no cautions, and won the race.
Wow. I believe it.
Becau
I,
Yeah, because
I
that's the
believe it.
track he grew up on, and Jeff Floyd tells the story. Jeff was running what he thought was the high side till he said until Beard went around me on the outside, I thought I was running the high side.
Oh, that's funny because every time I've seen Chris, it seems like or Kyle, he's on the bottom. Coming just methodical, just methodically coming around. I mean, I see him move up a little bit every once in a while. I've never seen that dude run the high sides. I don't think personally.
At Harrisburg, before they put the wall up in 1 and 2, he kind of hang the right rear over the edge. But I mean, he started racing on that place when he was 12. So I mean, he knew every inch of it and just was comfortable there. And of course, it was always great for us to go there because he brought a heck of a crowd. I mean, because he lived like his shop's like 7 miles from there, so he always had a huge crowd when we went there. But that was a great show. We had a event there. I don't remember what show it was, but I got a picture of 3 wide coming off of 2 after we'd made it into a D shape, where Tanner English, Curtis Cook, and Jack Sullivan are 3 wide coming off 2, and you can only see 1 car because they're perfectly
Wow,
aligned. Yeah, it's really cool to
that's
see.
cool. That is cool. That is cool. So, what's your what from all your days doing this stuff? Can you pick out one race that stands out to you as probably what you think is the best race you've ever flagged or watched? Is there one that comes to mind?
Best race I ever saw. Okay, so I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do the best comp race I ever saw, and then the best one I ever saw, just overall in person, like it's the Flagman. The best comp race I've ever seen was the first race at Crowley's Ridge, because everybody couldn't believe we were going to Crowley's Ridge and thought the race wouldn't be any good. Kyle Beard, Jack Sullivan, and Dane Dacus came to the flag 3 wide for the checkered, and the crowd was on its feet so loud I could hear them over the race cars. It was awesome. I mean, it was
I love
absolutely
that
awesome.
place.
And Jack and Dane were having a great race, battling for the lead, and Kyle was on the bottom, like you just said, and he inched them out at the finish line and won the race. And thank God we had transponders, because there's no way the naked eye could have seen who won the
Wow.
race. It was that good. But the thing that stands out, there was 2,000 people in the grandstands, all how many in the pits. They're standing up, screaming, hollering, and I could hear the crowd roar over the race cars. So that was pretty awesome. As far as the best race I've seen, and I had the honor to flag the topless many times, but probably a lot of people wouldn't agree. But at West Plains, the last show me at West Plains, probably wasn't a great race from a standpoint of fans, but having respect for what this guy did. Brian Burkhofer lapped up to 4th place in the last show me at West Plains, and he was
Wow.
passing Moyer, who was 4th, to about to lap him. It's one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen. And I
Wow.
love Brian Burkhofer. He raced with us weekly at Batesville when he lived with Moyer, and I got to know him. He's a great guy. And we didn't know it was the last one there then, but to watch him do that against who he was doing it to was impressive.
That is impressive. I mean, yeah, because I'm pretty sure Moyer, I know the race that stands out to me. I mean, it's going to be the 91 World 100. And I saw Moyer and I asked him about this. I'm positive he lapped a lot of that field at that race. I don't know how many. I can't find any information on it. Somebody probably knows, but he lapped a bunch of people at that 91 World 100. Man, that guy was good, and he still is. I mean, he still is good.
He's still good.
Yeah, so that to me probably stands out as my top race. But I went to the Dream up there this year, and when Josh Ross won that Thursday night feature, besides Crowley's Ridge, and I pronounce it right now, and I noticed you pronounce it right off the bat, because they'll get after you if you don't pronounce that right.
Yeah, but I grew up. My dad lives 8 miles from there, so I grew up there. It's Crowley's Ridge. Yes, sir.
Well, see, I had people. We went down there, and I'm from Salem or whatever. I grew up watching Channel 8 and all that stuff over there.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I remember hearing them people saying Crowley's Ridge on there on the news. I may be wrong, but so me and my brother both are from there. We went down to the Ridge to watch a race this year, and we asked people in the pits, "Is it Crowley's or Crowley's?" They're like, we don't know. Whatever you want it to be. Well, I screwed up and said something about it, interviewing Brandy Showa from Mississippi, and she was talking about, going up there. She said Crowley's Ridge, and I said Crowley's Ridge, and they didn't take well with that.
Yeah,
but I know now it's Crowley's Ridge.
Yes, sir.
Besides the race we went to at Crowley's Ridge, which this was, I think, a Titan Legends race we watched, and 305 Sprint cars were there that night. Besides that, and that place was packed. That place was packed even for that. Besides that race at the Dream was the wildest and most packed I've seen a dirt track this year. And they got loud when Ross won that race. We all did. And it was fun to watch. It really was. But
I have a hard time going to the races to watch.
I bet you do.
I spent 30-something years in the flag stand or being the race director, so it's weird sitting in the stands. Like I'm a fan, but I'm a different kind of fan, if that makes sense.
I mean, I understand. I tell people this, and a lot of people don't believe it. I don't get to watch a lot of racing. Which you know what I do. I mean, when I go to a track, I'm trying to talk to local drivers, interview
Mhm.
local drivers if I can. You know what I mean? So while one class is out running, I'm in here talking to class that's not running or trying to, and so I don't actually get to watch a lot of racing. I really don't.
Right.
I try to, but you know, I try to get as many interviews as I can when I'm back in there talking to folks and get as many people on there as I can, and even that takes up a lot of time.
It does.
Um, because you know, I'm putting it out on 4 different platforms, or trying to all these interviews, and it takes a long time to cut all that stuff up and get it put out there. So I have to make sure I don't get too many. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to Texas tomorrow morning, and you know, it's liable to be half a week before I get all those out. But
Well, let me say this while you're on here, and I'm not saying this because you were kind enough to have me on. But it's guys like you who make the stars. Mooney Star, when he started Mars, he had a guy named Larry Olson that was his publicity guy that wrote all of his articles and all that. And he made those guys sound bigger than life. Now, don't get me wrong, they were, because he had TP and he had Fry and Wendell, and he had a great talent racing that series. But Olson did a great job of promoting it. And I've used this for years. I'm a big wrestling guy too. I'm on a wrestling podcast a lot.
I'm gonna talk to you about. I want to talk to you about that. I know
Okay.
I've seen that.
But Jackie Fargo, the great wrestler, used to say, if you've got $100 bills on sale for 50 cents and nobody knows about it, you're not going to sell any. And
Yes, sir.
people like you promoting the sport, getting it out on all these different types of media there are nowadays, that's the key to making stars. You got to make it bigger than it is. And I'll give you an example. I had the old barn door trailer and a Tahoe. Then Lance Landers, who's one of my great friends, kind enough to help me more than I can ever repay him. I mean, just so good to me. Gave me a dually, and we bought a brand new trailer. Well, then after that, Jared had a uh, toter home he was getting rid of. They were going to sell, and Lance said, "My racing nickname's Big Show." So he says, "Big Show, you need to buy this toter home for the series to make it look like a big deal." And he was right. Like, we bought a stacker trailer to go with that. And then when we started going to these smaller venues that we went to, which Lucas Oil and World of Outlaws do not go to, it made us look like a big deal. We weren't a big deal, but people thought we were a big deal. So that gave us
You're right.
that open doors to sponsors, and that open doors to more racers wanted to be a part of it. Media, it is. So it's the promotional part is the key. And that's what, for example, going back to Mooney earlier, he's great at that. He is great at promoting.
Yeah. I even watched. I think he said he was going to start doing a show a weekly. If I saw that right on Facebook or something, he posted today. Do a podcast or some kind of show weekly, and he is. I met him down at Topless 100 this year. Seems like a super great guy. He really does. Um, just as friendly as he could be. You know what I mean? He didn't know me from Adam. I asked him. I said, "Hey, you want to come on my podcast?" He's like, "I don't know how to do that stuff."
He'd be entertaining. I promise you. He would be
Yeah,
entertaining much more than I am. I can tell you. He'd be very
yeah.
entertaining.
Well, and you were talking about that he was a super good guy. I met him. I met Lance Landers, talked to him a couple of times. He's a super nice guy. And you know, that's the thing about it for me, Chris, are the people I meet. All the, everybody I meet, I'm a fan first and foremost. I mean, I'm a fan. That's why I do this, because I like talking to people who are involved in it. You know, I mean, like I've told people before, my old man raced a long time ago with his brothers when they were up in Illinois. He moved back to Arkansas and just got out of it because he had a family and didn't do it. But he always took me to the dirt tracks, West Plains, Batesville, flipping, Thunderbird. You know, he was always taking me to it, and I enjoyed it. I got away from it for a long time, and that's what I don't want to happen to anybody else. If there's anybody else watching, he went when they were a kid and did and you know, saw all this awesome racing around here, and they haven't been back. I want them to get back into it, take their kids, their grandkids, keep these tracks alive, and go watch these local racers. because they're the ones that keep the tracks alive and keep the sport going. You know what I mean? And I wanna interview them and meet every local racer I possibly can, and along the way, I'll talk to anybody. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna not talk to somebody because I'm a fan of people too. You know, national guys. Like Tyler Brashear. I'm a fan of that ASD team. I've met Ethan Dodson. I'm a fan of theirs. So I'm going to talk to them too. But the local people are what's most important to me, and the regional people.
Yeah,
And
Tyler's a
it's
great,
just
great young man.
yeah, he's that was a fun interview. I enjoyed talking to him. I really did.
Well, Tyler,
I,
as I mentioned before we came on, Tyler played ball at Lone Oak, and I was at BB coaching and then administration. And his coach, his sophomore and junior year, was actually my roommate. And I knew Tyler through racing also, but Tyler and I have been connected for years and years. And I've actually texted him over the years, just kind of stayed in touch. He's just a great guy, comes from a good family. So proud for his success. He loves it like we do. He loves the
yeah,
sport. And you were talking about being from this area. You would love to live where I live, because to my right, where I'm sitting right now, Wayne Brooks Race Car Shop is 25 yards out that window. And to my left on this side, 50 yards is Larry Shaw Race Cars. And I'm actually my office is where Ken Hendricks and Larry Shaw's office and shop were when Dale McDowell drove for them.
I'll
And
be that
then
guy.
my bus shop, the apartment in my bus shop, it's for the school district, is where Moyer lived when he moved to Arkansas.
Really,
So, oh yeah, I'm right here. I mean, racing
you
history
are.
right
You
here in
are.
Batesville. I mean, we're blessed by that. If you love dirt racing, there's so much of it that's tied to Arkansas
Yes.
especially in the 80s and 90s. It was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. I mean, and this whole region, Chris. I mean, I've told people before. I know Batesville's the same way, probably, but I've met so many people that have come racers, current racers, somehow involved in racing that have come out of Muskogee, Oklahoma. And I'm sure Batesville's the same way. It's just unbelievable how many people there are that have come out of that around Thunderbird. And I'm sure Batesville's the same way. And it may be like that at every track. I don't know, but it seems like those two towns, Batesville and Thunderbird, there are a lot of people that have come from that area. Um, and I was watching something on YouTube. I think it was the first first show me 100. I know I was at that race, but I don't remember it. But there were people in there. Dan Leatherman. I know. I mean, I've met all kind of Leathermans over here. You know what I mean? Still racing. And it's just names that the guy that Johnny Verdon was in that race. I've talked to him, and I didn't know those people back then. I guess because I was young or what. But I went back, and there were some big names in that race. Big names in that race, and
I
it
was
was fun
there.
to watch.
I can't recall it. I mean, I was there because that's when I lived in Walnut Ridge, and Jeff Floyd was racing, him and Randy, his dad. So I
I
know
remember them.
I was at the race, but I can't recall it. But obviously Dan Leatherman I remember, because my first knowledge of a series was MLRA that Ken Essery and Randy Mooneyham owned. And then Moon started Mars. And then when I got in the business, Randy Mooneyham had taken over Mars. And Randy Mooneyham was a great mentor for me when I started, because we co-sanctioned some shows with him, and he helped me a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. And of course, I've become friends with his grandson, Peyton Looney, who's a good racer, and that's a good family. I like all those folks. That's what I miss about it, is the people. But like, try to show respect for those people who helped me, because Randy, I mean, he had a lot of good, wise things to tell me about running a series and how to do business, and looking forward and how to put together a schedule and different things like that. He was really good to help me during those early years.
Now, just talk, I remember the Floyds. They were if I was at a race, the Floyds are always there. I mean, Bill Fry was telling me a story about a track down there at Goobertown. Do you know what
Goobertown.
that is?
Yes, sir.
What was
Yeah.
that?
It's called Jonesboro Super Speedway in Goobertown, Arkansas. There is such a place. It's between Brooklyn and Paragould. It was only open 1 year, and unfortunately, on Labor Day weekend of, I don't know, probably 1988, maybe, um, a guy that drove a street stock out of Melbourne. I'm not going to say his name, but his right rear tire came off. It bounced over in the pits. And in fact, a good friend of Mooney's, the late Ivy Herring, owned late models and stuff, sponsored a lot of people back then. A guy was standing next to Ivy in the pits. It hit him in the head, and unfortunately, the gentleman passed from the injury, and the track had no insurance, and they closed it down. Yeah, it was only open that one season.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he was telling me that about a race he had down there with the Floyds. It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
At that place.
Delbert Smith. You've heard of Delbert Smith from
I remember
Kansas?
that name. Yes, sir.
Delbert Smith was there that night driving for Ivy. That's before Wendell drove for him, I believe. But
Okay.
that's the only time I ever been, for whatever reason, that stands out in my mind that Delbert was there. I was not flagging that night. I was just there in the pits, watching the races. I don't know if it was on a Saturday or Monday. I know it was the holiday weekend. I recall that. And it was a tragic deal. It was sad. I hated it for everybody involved, but they didn't have any insurance. They closed the racetrack.
Yeah, I didn't even know that one existed either. So I'm getting a history lesson from you on this one.
That just means I'm old. That's what
Yeah,
that
yeah.
means.
No, it means you're an educator. Delbert Smith and I'm going to see him down in Texas this weekend. I think from what I saw, I think he's racing down there this weekend.
Yeah, I know he still drives.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen him a couple of times. So I want to get into this now. Tell me about the wrestling. How are you involved in the wrestling world?
Okay, so for people who don't know, the hottest wrestling territory in America in the 70s and 80s was Memphis.
Memphis.
Memphis, every star ever made, minus one or two, came through Memphis. Every one of them. And my good friend Randy Hales, who's from Jonesboro like I am, went to work as a ring announcer at the Jonesboro shows. They were every Saturday night. So we went to races on Friday night, and my papa took me to wrestling on Saturday night. That was my routine. And Randy was the ring announcer. Randy's about 6 years older than me, and he got to working for the office in Memphis for Jerry Jarrett, Eddie Marlin, the King, and then he went on to become the book, what they call the booker. Now they're called riders, but he was the booker. So like Randy was kind of like in, he was one of the first bosses of The Rock, one of the first bosses of the Undertaker.
Nice.
I mean, like he knows all those people personally.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so then he started when all the territories died. Randy started. We always joke, I'm the owner, promoter, and founder of Comp Camp Super Nerd Series. He's the owner, promoter, and founder of Power Pro Wrestling out of Memphis. Anyway, so Randy has a show called Talking Memphis Wrestling, and our good friend Pat Trammell, who's the original co-host, the great Michael St. John, who's a Hall of Fame announcer, who was on those wrestling shows back in the day, with Lance Russell when Dave wasn't there, and some other times. He worked for Nick Goulas Wrestling out of Nashville. He's on there, and then I'm on there when I can be, which is not as often as I would like, but I'm more on there from a fan historian side because I win every Saturday. You watched Memphis Wrestling every Saturday from 11 to 12:30. You didn't miss it. And in fact, back in the era I'm talking about, on Saturday morning from 11 to 12:30, within a 100-mile radius of Memphis, Tennessee, 70% of the TVs were turned into Memphis Wrestling.
Oh, I believe it. Excuse me. But now, see, I don't know which one we got up there at Salem because we didn't watch Channel 8 a lot down there in Jonesboro or that area. Now, when I went to my grandma's house down at Higdon, down at Greers Ferry, it was always the Von Erichs on there.
Yeah, that's world class out of Dallas.
Yeah.
Memphis was on Channel 5 out of Memphis. Then you had
So
Mid-South Wrestling out of Shreveport, which is Bill Watts' company, and they were on out of Little Rock TV. And then, so when we got cable, I'd have to flip back and forth between Memphis on 5 and Channel 4 out of Mid-South to watch it. Then the Von Erichs was syndicated. So when I got cable, and then I had Georgia Championship Wrestling too. So I was a big wrestling fan. In fact, I've wrestled some on small shows, and
really,
yeah, oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, I agree.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, here's the deal. People always say it's fake, and let me go on record. It is not fake. It is predetermined. It's a predetermined outcome, but when you get thrown out of the ring on a concrete floor or you get a folded metal chair across your back, it's not fake. It's real. And so,
are you really getting hit on the back with a metal chair?
yes. Yeah. Now, they're not hitting you full force. I mean, like if Undertaker picked up a folded metal chair and hit you across the back, it'd break your back.
Break your back.
But it still hurts. Like if he's hitting you 50%, it still hurts.
I
like,
bet.
It's not,
all right.
You know.
So the floor outside the ring, I mean, I noticed it's got like mats on it, but is that like,
it does now?
Is it gym mat? You know, that hard stuff?
Gym mats now. Yeah. But go back and watch the old days. Go back and watch Memphis wrestling from the 70s and 80s. There's no mats on the floor. It's concrete. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to know how to land right on that, or is it just you're out and you hit it however you hit it?
Well, they call it learning to take a bump. That's what they call it. But yeah, you got to know how to fall and roll, and you develop that over time and experience. And
it's still got to hurt though, right?
Yeah, I mean, you take a beating. Those guys used to work 7 days a week, and they worked 330 times a year out of 365 days. They took a pounding.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I know. I was a big wrestling fan too. Now, the Von Erichs, that's about all I saw. I didn't get to see the Memphis stuff. I didn't get to see what's over in Oklahoma. There was one in Oklahoma too. Over there, I didn't get to see.
Yeah, that's Bill Watts. It was Louisiana, Oklahoma, Little Rock.
That's Mid-South.
That's Mid-South. That's Bill Watts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get on YouTube, man, and watch it. There's a lot to see. Yeah.
I have, man. It's fun to watch those, like Hacksaw back when he was starting out. I've seen him on there. Junkyard Dog, he was on Mid-South a lot. Yeah, man, I watch those. I like it. And that's when Jim Ross, is it Jim Ross? That's Jim Ross started over there, didn't he?
He started as a referee in Oklahoma, then an announcer for Watts in Shreveport. Yes.
Yeah. That is cool to see that stuff. It really is. It really is. So, you still watch wrestling? Do you like the new stuff at all, or?
No, not really. I don't follow it anymore because just like you and I talking about it now, back in the day it was called kayfabe. You didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about what went on, and the kayfabe era died. Because the thing I like about it is the psychological manipulation of the audience. That's the fun part. Like I was always what little I did wrestle, I was a bad guy, and I always liked the heels because they get the people stirred up, and that's entertaining to me. I think it's funny because they're pushing your buttons, and it's a show, but people get so into it, like they're wanting to kill you, and like.
Yes, I've heard stories about them, like people threatening to kill them.
I told a story over the weekend back in the day. Eddie Gilbert they did a deal where Eddie Gilbert hit Lawler with a car, and Lawler flipped over the hood. And they called the police to come there because they said it was attempted murder. Like fans are calling in. He tried to kill him on live television.
Oh man!
And like Lawler had to go tell him, "Hey, look, it's part of the show." Yada yada, and that's when it was cool. When people didn't really. They thought it might not be fully real, but they weren't sure. And oh man, that looked real. He beat the crap out of that guy, or he's really hurt, or he's, now they all know. So it's not, to me, it's not as entertaining.
I knew something was going on because, me and my buddies had hurt each other pretty bad with pile drivers.
Yeah. You got to know how to execute them and take
Something's
them.
up. Something's up.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And one of the suplexes and stuff like that. Yeah, you try all that.
Yeah.
They must really know how to do it better than we do, or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Chris, let me get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the current state of dirt track racing, especially in our area? How do you feel about it?
Well, you're probably not going to like what I'm going to say, but it's ironic we were talking about territory wrestling. I think it's going in the way of territory wrestling. It's going to die out. Sadly, when we started the series all those years ago, 19 years ago, it was so we could have supers in our area. Because like Randy was racing in Iowa, he was going to McCool Junction, Colorado, and all those places to race. We needed something in Arkansas and North Louisiana and Northwest Mississippi that were supercars. And so we started the series to fill that niche and with the hopes it would last 10 years. Well, we've been blessed it's lasted 19. But when you lose I-30 Speedway,
Yeah,
so just going down the list, Monticello, no longer open, we race there. Sterling, Louisiana, no longer open, we race there. The Rev, no longer open, we race there. Tri-State's iffy. They don't go to Crawford County anymore. We raced at Outlaw. They don't race there anymore. Thunderbird's still there. We did go there. I think Salina High Banks is still there. We went there. Flippin doesn't have them anymore. Pittsburgh has Summer National. I think they still have a comp race. Little Rock's gone, which was one of our two home tracks. Peaceful being one and Little Rock being the other. They don't go to Nashville anymore. I think they still try to go to Texarkana. Berkeley, Texas, they don't go there anymore, which is a great racetrack.
that's what I heard.
Malden, Missouri's gone. Poplar Bluff's struggling. I mean, I can go on and on. You see how many I keep saying, not there anymore, not there anymore, not there anymore. And I mean, it's just the state of the sport. It's there's too many things to do. Travel balls taking over, uh, electronics, streaming. I mean, you can race for 5,000 to win dirt modifieds online, and when you wreck it, you hit a button and the car's fixed. I mean, you
Yeah,
know, go race it,
yeah.
race in another race. I don't have to go out in the shop all week and grind it out. Plus, I had to find a way to pay for it. Now, do I think that's going to be in my lifetime? I'm not sure. I know in Arkansas, it's getting smaller. Eastern Oklahoma seems to be holding on with Siloam and Muskogee. I know late models in Texas are about non-existent as far
Yes.
as open cars, which I can't lie. I was a big proponent of getting away from the 12-inch spoiler. That was one of my goals. I wanted the South to all be on 8-inch spoiler and open motors, not spec motors with 12-inch blades. That was not good for the sport, in my opinion. But in hindsight, I'm not sure we didn't run some people out of the business that might still be driving a late model. So I don't know. At the time, we thought that was the right way to go, but I'm not sure. Mississippi used to be a ton of late models in Mississippi. Now a lot of them have gone to crate or steel block. Not a lot of supercars down there. That's obvious by the car counts when comp goes down there. Now, when they go to Magnolia, which is an awesome racetrack, my friend Johnny Stokes has tremendous facility there. They have car counts, but they pay big money. But I'm talking about for a 5,000 to win show when they go to Mississippi. We're used to you go to Magnolia, you'd have 35 or 40. Now you have 25 or 30. When you go to Jackson, you'd have 25. Now you got 18. And it's just kind of that pattern. And then you look up in Southwest Missouri what we used to call the Mecca in the Glory Day. We call it the Glory Days in the Mecca. You got to think about Springfield, Bolivar, Lebanon, Monette. They all had a crowd every week. They all had late models every week, and they're all
Yeah.
right there. You put a hat over them. And
Yeah.
now, I mean, Monette's now
Yeah.
gone, which I think is
Yeah.
so sad that it's gone.
It is sad. I love that place. I
Yeah.
did.
So
That
anyway, I think it's
that just
trending.
yeah.
It's trending in the wrong way. And I wish, because I mean, I loved it my whole life. I've been involved with it. I still watch it. One of the things we messed up on And I want to praise Michael Rigsby. Let me say this first. I want to praise Michael Rigsby for all he's done to grow the sport, enhance the payouts, promote it. But at the same time, the promoters, we weren't very smart. We should have got a bigger cut of the pie when they started showing them all online. Because I live 5 miles from Batesville Speedway, and Mooney and Connie are dear friends of mine, but I watch the topless from my living room because it's 100 degrees, and I can
It
watch it
was
from my
hot.
living room.
Yeah.
And I'm
It was
5
hot.
miles from the racetrack, and I love racing, but it's convenient. I can just sit right there and watch it. Now, so that's a double-edged sword. They've done great by promoting it. When I owned the series, when I got out of it, they were doing about 10 of our shows a year. Chris and Jack took over. They started doing all the comp shows. And to be honest with you, I told Chris Sullivan this myself. When they got off of flow, I thought it hurt them. Because I give Michael and like Ben Shelton was my original website guy. He was still an engineer back then. And
Yeah, I
doing
saw
mobile.
something about that.
Yeah, and Ben, that's what kind of getting started with his career. He was a big help to us. And in fact, his good friend, Chris Douglas, was the head of marketing at Comp Cams, and that's how I got my Comp Cams deal, which that's a cool story if you want me to share that.
Yeah.
One night at the Topless, if you've ever had the pleasure of being at the Topless when it rains, it's a mud hole. It's terrible. And so I'm riding out on the four-wheeler, and Chris, I had never met Chris Douglas. I'm just the flagman at Batesville at this time. And he flags me down, says, "Hey, man, are you Mooney?" And I said, "No, I'm not Mooney." I said, "I'm the flagman." He said, "Can you give me a ride? I'm going to wade this mud to my truck, and it's terrible out here." I said, "Sure, get on." And I ride him out to the truck. Fast forward about 5 years, my friend Kerry Jones, who had gone in partners with me to help me try to promote this and build it up, we went to Memphis to comp, had an appointment to see him. I have no idea who he is. When we walk in the room, he stands, and we all shake hands. He and Billy Carroll are there, and Billy's still there. Has been a tremendous supporter of ours. And Chris says, "I know you." And I said, "You know me?" He said, "You gave me a ride in the mud one time at the Topless to get me out of the mud." He said, "I'll never forget that." So what I've told racers over the years, I tell my kids when they're fundraising at school, always be nice to people because you don't really
Yes.
know who they are or who they might actually be related to. So that's not why I got the sponsorship, but it didn't hurt me. If I'd have been a jerk to him that night, I'd have got thrown out of the office. It'd been over. But at least he listened to me, and God bless him and Billy Carroll. Chris Douglas and Billy Carroll made Comp Cams happen. 3-year contract is on year uh, what we 316, so 13 more years after the 3-year contract. 16
Yeah.
years on a 3-year contract.
That is that's dedication, and that's awesome. It really is, just have a sponsor that long on a series like that. And I mean, that's just what you know it as. It's the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series. I mean, it's just Comp Cams. You know what I
Correct.
mean? I mean,
I told him years ago when we started it, I said, "If you'll let me name it this, everybody will think you're like Lucas, that you own your own series. They're going to call it Comp Cams. They'll never know MSRA existed. They won't know about Super Dirt Series. They'll all say Comp Cams.
Comp
And
Cams.
that's what you want them to say. And here we are. I mean, that's what happened. Thank
Heck
the good
yeah.
Lord. That's what happened. So
Great advertising. Great
it
marketing
is
right
super.
there. There needs to be a lot more businesses that realize, how important that could be. I mean, we need a lot more sponsors in the sport. Or we need new sponsors, new blood that don't know anything about racing. And I've been thinking about ways to try to do that. I don't know. There needs to be more focus on advertising because the racing fans are really loyal to sponsors of racing. I know I am. If I'm somewhere and I see something that I know sponsors racing, I'm going to buy that over something else. I promise you, 100%.
Well, I can tell you 2 more sponsor stories just to share for racers. I had the pleasure of meeting Forrest Lucas through this way. My announcer for my racing series, my late friend Keith Schutte, was sitting next to him at the Chili Bowl, and they got to talking. And Forrest was kind enough to give Keith his personal cell phone number to give to me. And I called him, and I thought, I mean, he ain't gonna remember this, no telling how many people Mr. Lucas meet a day or a week. Anyway, and then we ended up being they were our presenting sponsor. Richie Lewis called me and said, "Hey, I need to work with you on this to make this happen." He said, "Aren't you the guy that runs Comp Cams?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm Chris Davis, Midwest Sheet Metal." Well, I knew he sponsored a bunch of people. He goes, "I got a question." He goes, "Am I not good enough to sponsor your series?" I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Am I not good enough to sponsor your series?" I said, "Well, of course you are." "Well, you've never asked me." So that's how that friendship struck up, and Lance Landers had actually sent him over to me. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. I see his sign up there behind you
Yep.
on the, yeah.
Right
And,
there. Yeah.
yeah. And, I mean, that's how that relationship started. So, I mean, I've been blessed at every turn. I did not do any of this. It was a tremendous effort by a lot of sponsors, race promoters, a lot of great racers. I mean, we really had very few problems. I mean, we have some with human beings, but over the years, loyalty, had tremendous loyalty. I just noticed that Mr. David Peterson is selling his racing operation, and BJ Robinson's not going to race for him
Yeah, I saw
anymore.
that.
Yeah, BJ's a good friend, and they were loyal. They raced with us for a decade or more every night. So that's just another example of the loyalty and support we had, and we're just very, very fortunate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you created something awesome. I mean, I'll just say that you created my favorite late model series. It has been. Uh, it's our area's super late model series. It's us. It's our series, our people, our region, and that's why I'm so happy to get to talk to you because everybody that knows me knows I love that series. So,
Well, I
but
appreciate that.
yeah,
I'm glad you do. And I'm glad there are many people that do, because that's what's kept
yeah,
it going.
and like you were talking about, I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing because of people like you, people like Chris Wilhot. Chris Wilhot took a chance on me doing my first podcast, Chris Wilhot Jr. And it's because of him and all the other people, that just, I don't know, I guess, I don't know, like to talk to me or something. I don't know what I tell my wife every day. I said, I don't know why people like to talk to me, but I'm glad they do. And, uh, and I love hearing the stories. And I think maybe it's because, I mean, people know that I do. I don't have any history with anybody. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Everything is new information to me. And you know what, Chris? That's a lot of it is new information to me, and that's fun. It's
Well, it's
fun to
fun
hear
for
that
me.
stuff.
It's fun for me when I've told you about these old tracks, to see your genuine excitement about learning about these things, because these are things I've been fortunate enough to get to be a part of and know about. And I'm glad there's people that's younger than me and coming along after me that care about it, because it is important. And to show respect to these racers who've laid the foundation. Like, I always hear Mark Martin talks about Wayne Brooks a lot, but he and Kenny Wallace always talk about Larry Phillips. And Larry Phillips is possibly the greatest racer ever from our region. I mean,
Well, yeah,
he was unbelievable. Dirt car, asphalt, and I pray that he gets in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, as he so deserves. If I had any kind of, I have nothing to do with the asphalt world, but if I did, I'd do everything in my power to get Larry Phillips in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, because he deserves it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's influenced. I mean, the influence he has on racing in this area is just unbelievable. It really is. Uh, Hall of Famers. I mean, I've talked to two Hall of Famers he was a big influence on. I mean, it's just, he's our region's guy. I mean, that's just how it was. Chris, I've had you on here for a long time, so I could talk to you for hours on end. I
I can do whatever you want to do, man. I'm flexible. So
but I definitely like to talk to you again. I don't want to keep you on here anymore tonight, and I'll have to get this out, and and get it on there tomorrow. But let's end it here. And um, thank you very much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. I really have been looking forward to talking to you, and I'm glad I got to.
Well, Skip, I feel very honored that you asked me because, I mean, in the big scheme of things, the racers are the stars of the show and the fans are what make it happen. And that we're just kind of the conduit to bring it all together. And we're behind the scenes. Now, I will say, I'll get recognized a lot of times because I've been the flagman, but I'm just out in front of the crowd. But it takes that whole crew running that racing program. And I'm so blessed. I've had a bunch of good people help me as I've tried to mention many of them tonight. I, I mean, it's just been a blessing. I miss the people. I don't miss getting home at daylight on Sunday morning. I don't miss people running 6 support classes when I'm trying to run a
Yeah.
late model show. And because I'm more of a run 3 classes than us and
Yes, sir.
let's keep it rolling and that kind of thing. But I could go on and on, but it's an honor to be on. I hope people
It's
enjoy
my
it.
my
And
honor.
I look forward to doing it again sometime. And also,
And
I will help
do you?
you connect with some folks.
I appreciate that. You already have one major one. You've already helped me with that, and people are going to find out what that is hopefully here pretty soon. And trust me, you're going to get the credit on that one. I promise you. But now, hey, before we go, do you want to shout anybody out before I stop recording? Because I know you said you had some shout outs you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mentioned some of my sponsors, but I think I mentioned Lance Landers helped us from his automotive group, and him and Mark Martin's automotive group helped us a ton. And then on the promoter side, Mooney and Connie at Batesville, Tracy Clay gave me how many races. My good friend up at Malden, Missouri, Phil Sandy, Wesley Washington owned Greenville Speedway in Greenville, Mississippi, back when I was doing all this, and thankful to him that he gave me races when nobody ever heard of us. He gave us a shot, and you can't put a value on that. Raymond Merrill helped me over in Oklahoma. I call him 12M, but 12M helped me at both tracks in Muskogee, helped me get in at Salina. I mentioned Randy Mooneyham, Jerry Hoffman at Springfield, Mr. and Miss Gibson at West Plains. Man, what an honor when Mr. Don called me and wanted us to run a show at West Plains. I mean, and I told my late mother, "Hey, I've made the big time, Mom." Mr. Don called me and wants me to come to West Plains. But real quick before I go, speaking of my late mother, she passed in April. I used to tell her,
Sorry to hear that.
well, thank you. She's the only lady to ever own a dirt late model series. Because when I borrowed the money to borrow the racetrack and start the racing series, my mother co-signed for it. So
It's
that's how much money I had to borrow because I didn't have enough collateral. So my mom is the only woman I know that owned a dirt late model series.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. It really is. Well, Chris, seriously, thanks for coming on. Definitely, I would like to talk to you again here at some point. And because I'm sure there's all kind of other stuff we could be talking about. But thanks for coming on, and I appreciate it a whole lot, sir.
You bet. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
All right, thank you.